Shaquan Show.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for tuning in to the Shaquan Show, the only place where normalcy is not necessary, but flourishing within your means is. Welcome back to another episode of Hey Girl, nice to meet you. So today we are at the gate. Now remember from the last episode, it is boarding call time. This is the moment that we have been preparing for. It's time for you to start making your way back to her. Now remember, when you started on this journey with me, it was for the purpose of becoming or getting back to the woman that you know you've been called to be. So, your plane is ready. Your name is being called. All you have to do is step forward. The question is, are you ready to board, or are you still sitting and waiting at the gate, doubting if you even belong on this flight to the next part of your journey? Let's get into it. Okay, so let me set the scene. You're at the airport, you hear your boarding group called, and suddenly you start scrambling, double checking your bag, rereading your ticket, and just stalling because you're nervous, you're unsure. And before you know it, people who were assigned to board after you are already on the plane, finding their seats and getting settled. And now you're stuck having to sit in a seat that you don't even want. And that's exactly how purpose feels sometimes. God calls your name, gives you the opportunity, opens the door, and instead of walking forward, you hesitate. You second guess. Am I really ready for this? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What are people going to say? Will I actually get the support from everyone who said that they would support? What if I just do something downright embarrassing? I don't know. What if I get canceled? There are so many questions. And like, for real, if you're anything like me, then you're actually saying, Lord, can you just tell me now so that I don't put all this work in and be disappointed? You know what I mean? So as I was putting this together, it made me think about a few different stories, but I decided to settle in on the book of Judges because I thought it was most fitting. Judges chapter 6, if you want to look it up. And by the way, if y'all don't know this about me by now, I equate just about everything to the Bible because it's so applicable. It's really not just reading a book to me. For me, it's more like watching a movie, right? And I've found that one of my gifts is showing people how this old book is still alive and living and still applicable to their everyday life. And the word also says that there's nothing new under the sun. And guess what? I have found that to be true as well. There is nothing new under the sun. So no matter what you see or what you hear, I am pretty sure there's an episode in the Bible. So anyways, back to Judges chapter 6, Gideon in particular. So I started thinking about how Gideon must have felt when his name was called. Gideon was hiding in a wine press, trying to secretly thresh wheat so that the Midianites wouldn't steal it. And if you don't know what threshing is, it's basically like banging wheat, like banging the wheat plants with a big stick so that the seeds will fall out. So long story short, the Midianites had been terrorizing the children of Israel for years. They were, taking everything that they harvested. And have you ever seen the movie A Bug's Life with the ants and the grasshopper? So Gideon and his people, the children of Israel, they're the ants and the Midianites are the grasshoppers. If you haven't seen A Bug's Life, hit me up so that we can plan a movie date because it's one of the quintessentials. You should probably have that one in your database. So anyways, like I said, Gideon is in this wine press hiding his grain from the Midianites because if he was to do it in the normal open air threshing floors, it would have been too vulnerable and he most likely would have gotten his stuff taken. Again, sidebar. I feel like there's a lot more to unpack with him being in this wine press threshing wheat, but remind me to cover that in another episode. Nonetheless, he's hiding out in fear. So I believe that Gideon did what many of us do. He adapted, he survived, he made it work in a place that wasn't designed for that. It wasn't the normal way to thresh wheat, but it felt necessary to protect what little he had left. Gideon's hiding wasn't just physical. It showed how defeated and discouraged he, along with God's people, like his family and stuff, it shows how discouraged they had become. And here's what I love about this. It was in that hidden place that the angel of the Lord showed up and called him a mighty warrior, a mighty man of valor. Not when he was bold, not when he was having this great moment of confidence, but it was while he was hiding. And some of us are doing the exact same thing. We're hiding in a quote, wine press season, trying to protect what's left, trying to survive, trying not to lose the little strength or joy, faith, confidence, like try not to lose the little bit that we still have left. But even in that place, God will still show up and call your name. So when the Lord showed up and called Gideon to board his flight, essentially, instead of standing up and boarding the call, Gideon hesitated. He choked. And I get it. I compare myself to Gideon like all the time. Well, sometimes I'm Peter, for real. And then sometimes I'm Gideon. But then also sometimes I'm Moses. And sometimes I'm Joshua. Anyways, y'all get the point, right? I've been there. I have been there, figuratively speaking, sitting in that waiting area with my ticket in my hand, knowing my plane is boarding, but I'm afraid to move. And what I realized is this: hesitation has a cost. If you delay too long, you risk missing your moment. Opportunities don't always wait for our comfort. Sometimes they expire if we don't move. But here's the thing. As you continue to read, you'll see that Gideon has so many questions before moving forward with the calling on his life. He is like legit, just straight up asking the Lord all the questions. Like, hey, Lord, if it's really you, prove it. And if you really want me to do that, then I need you to do this. And even though God called him this great man of valor, this mighty man, this mighty warrior, which is an extremely high esteem, Gideon straight up told God, you might have to get somebody else to do it. I think you might have the wrong one. You know who I am, right? I'm not the other dudes you be calling on. But God never changed his mind about Gideon just because Gideon doubted himself. He still called him mighty. He still gave him the assignment. And then he tells him, go in the strength that you have. Because remember, the Lord already knows what you are capable of. I want you to keep this nugget in your front pocket. If God builds it, then God will sustain it. But the question is, do you trust him to do and provide the super as you walk in your natural? All right. So like I was saying, I had a couple of different stories that came to mind when I was putting this together. So let's look at the children of Israel in Numbers 13:14. I feel like we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, so we're just going back to it. But anyways, here in Numbers 13 and 14, again, we see God had already given the children of Israel the promised land. Yes, they had to fight the giants that were already inhabiting the land at that time, but the battle was already run because God said so, right? Literally, all they had to do was show up. But when it was time to, quote, board, go into the land, they hesitated. Their palms got sweaty. Their knees got weak. Their arms got heavy. And all they could see were giants instead of God's promises. Let me rewind. God didn't say, I might give y'all this land. God didn't say, I'm thinking about giving y'all this land. Not even, I'm going to give y'all this land. Be clear. He said, I have already given y'all this promised land. All you got to do is show up and receive what's yours. Easy peasy. But they choked. And that hesitation ended up costing them 40 years of wandering, 40 years of what if, 40 years of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. What is your hesitation costing you? This boarding call isn't about how ready you feel. It's about whether you trust the one who's calling your name. When God calls your name. He's not asking you to prove yourself. You don't need to audition for this part. You don't need to overpack for it. You don't need to compare your boarding group to somebody else's. You just need to get up and get on the flight. Why? Because delayed obedience is still disobedience. And hesitation is one of the enemy's favorite ways of keeping you grounded and keeping you from arriving at the destination that you've been called to. The story about Gideon shows us that hesitation doesn't disqualify us, right? Even when we're hiding, doubting, asking for sign after sign, God never backs down on the call that he placed on Gideon's life. And I believe that it's the same for you and I. In Judges, it says, Judges 6:14, it says, the Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of the Midianites' hand. Am I not sending you? So the same way that Gideon is talking to God and questioning God, like, hey, do you know who I am? God is returning that same energy. Like, no, do you know who I am? Am I not the one sending you? Am I not the one that rescued you? Am I not the one that's been providing for you? Am I not the one that ensures that you have sufficient grace day in and day out? Am I not the one that gives mercy day in and day out? I gave you my son. I am the one who forgives you as far as the east is from the west. So it's me. I'm the one sending you. And girl, that's the boarding call right there. God is not asking you to be perfect. God is not asking you to have it all figured out. God is simply telling you to go in the strength that you already have because he's the one that's sending you. Your confidence shouldn't be in the size of your strength. It should be in the fact that he called you. He put your name on it. So I guess you can look at this as the boarding call of faith as you make your way back to her, because it takes faith to take this journey. It's hearing your name, standing up and stepping forward, not because you feel fearless, but because you trust the one who gave you the ticket. You trust the one who's calling your name. Your courage isn't in your own ability. It can't be. It has to be in God's presence and in God's reassurance, but that's faith. And trust me, I know, listen, we are 8 episodes deep and I've been doing this podcast scared the entire time. Like for real, I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the answers. I do know what I believe that God has called me to do. I'm just taking it one day at a time. From my vantage point, I'm not seeing success. Like I don't see what other people are seeing. I'm continuing to record and upload weekly because I'm trusting and believing that this is what I'm called to do in this season until further notice, you know? And so I've stopped taking myself so serious. Like I've stopped overthinking this. I think that the best thing that I can do in a situation like this is just step forward. Just take a step forward. That's it. You know, again, we just out here doing it scared, right? But that's faith. Anyways, so here is your baggage claim moment for this week. What's something that you've been questioning, that you've been doubting, like your abilities, your gift? Like what's making you hesitate from moving forward in your calling or your purpose? As you prepare to board this flight on your journey back to her, what are you afraid of? I can tell y'all right now, mine is failure. For real, mine is failure. It's the fear of rejection. It's the fear of it not working out. For those of you that know me, you know that I've been doing this for a very long time, and I put it down and I picked it back up just recently. But this is what I started out doing before any of the other endeavors that I have done. So this is before all the accolades and pageants, all that stuff. I was doing podcasts first. And I can so how old was I at that time? I was like 19 when I started doing podcasts. So I launched the Shaquan Show back then. So this had to be like 2007, 2008. And I'm 38. It is 2025 right now. And I am all that time in between. I sat the Shaquan Show down because it didn't seem like it was the thing to do. Like maybe it wasn't in the cards. Maybe I was, just dreaming to want to do a podcast. And at the time, podcast wasn't really popping. It was radio. It was all about radio. So I was trying to get into radio, but my heart wasn't there. Radio wasn't, I wanted to do radio, but it wasn't, I didn't have as big of a passion for it as I did with podcast. And here I am, almost 20 years later, which sounds really crazy to be able to say. I am doing it, trying to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm at least going to see it through, as far as the Lord allows. But yeah, so that's the thing that I've been questioning. I've been doubting, or I was doubting, but like I said, I just stopped taking myself so serious. I stopped overthinking it. I'm going to record, I'm going to put it out, and whoever it reaches, that's who is meant to reach. So anyways, back to you. This week, I want you to write down areas in your life where you feel or where God has been calling you to activate, but you've been hesitating. Maybe it's applying for a job, starting a business, writing a book. Maybe it's just setting a new boundary for yourself or for someone else in your life. And then I want you to take one step forward towards something on that list before this week is over. Maybe even consider putting an expiration date next to them. Like something loose, like maybe give yourself till December of this year, or maybe give yourself till February of next year, whatever it may be. But there is no perfect timing. I want you to know that. So don't try to wait for perfect timing, because there isn't one. There is no perfect time. You just have to respond to your boarding call right now. Period. When your name is called, you don't need to keep pacing the gate, pacing the waiting area. Your seat has already been assigned. Your ticket is already paid for. The plane doesn't have to take off without you. I don't want the plane to take off without you. You just have to move forward, take a step in faith. Okay? Well, y'all, we made it all the way to the boarding call. Now it's time for you to take flight and start making your way back to her. I want to thank you for joining me today. Next time on Hey Girl, nice to meet you, we'll be talking about turbulence and what to do when the ride starts to get a little rough and bumpy and you feel like giving up. So be sure that you join me next week. If today's episode resonated with you in any kind of way, please share it. Share it with a friend who needs this reminder, and then tell that friend to tell a friend. And if you're listening on your favorite platform, please go ahead and drop a quick review or rating, because it helps this message reach more women who are ready to flourish. And again, they might not even know that they're ready to flourish until they hear this. I'll have a new episode dropping every Tuesday, so be sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss out on an episode. And then make sure that you're following me on socials at Shaquan Show so that we can keep the conversation going throughout the week. I do this for you, so I want to hear from you. Your words might just be the key that unlocks freedom for the next woman. Until then, in the meantime and in between time, I can't wait for you to keep meeting you. And now that you've entered into the Shaquan Show, you have no choice but to grow. Peace.
Shaquan Show.